Greetings, everyone. I'm Mando, Money Making Mando on IG. Come follow me, please. I'm here with another episode of the Real Estate Deli where we cut through the noise and deliver actionable insight straight to you and make the information the star. So today we'll have someone on, an RV connoisseur, Michelle Bisson. How are you, Michelle?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great that you're able to come on and we get to discuss something that I feel like you're very versed on, which is RV parks. For me, I have really no knowledge of RV parks. For me, like I said, RV parks, mobile homes, all this stuff, it just convolutes in my brain and it's all the same to me, right? So
Yeah.
I love that you were able to come on and kind of break down kind of the ABCs, the one, two, threes of exactly what is it that you do and how did you get into this space, right? And what led you to this space? So yeah, so I guess my first question is, what led you into the RV park sector, let's say?
Actually, so I started investing in 2020, actually. So I started buying long-term rentals in 2020, which moved me into short-term rentals. And then we built a resort in Scottsdale. And so after we opened the doors on the resort in Scottsdale and saw the money that we were going to make there, my husband actually decided to leave his W-2 job. So when he left his W-2 job, I kid you not, turned around and looked at me and he goes, "We need to double our income in the next 60 days."
Wow.
And so, being faced with that kind of a challenge, I was like, okay, well, you just left your W-2 job that took away some of our income. Now we just opened this resort, so we haven't even seasoned it yet. Our long-term rentals do really, really well and they pay for all of our bills. But now you want us to take on a bigger risk. And so that's actually when we joined the Sub 2 community.
Awesome.
So we joined the Sub 2 community about 2 days after that and learned creative financing. And I was like, where has this been
Right.
this entire time? I would have saved so much.
What is this? It's so amazing, right?
Yeah, no, just completely mind blown that you could buy things creatively and with as little money out of pocket as possible. And so, kind of jumped into the space and started really researching what we were going to do. And so we really knew that we would probably do like either a mobile home park or a storage unit, and didn't even consider RV parks until one was presented to us. And they were like, "Hey, I know that you're not really looking at this, but have you considered an RV park?" So when we started looking at RV parks and started running numbers on them, we were kind of blown away that it's actually one of the underutilized asset classes for RV investors. It's kind of a niche. And it does some of the highest returns in all of the classes. So, multifamily, more of a long play. Mobile home parks, they're great. They're cash cows. Except that, you pay $500 for a spot for the month.
And
Storage units are kind of the same way. You pay $60 to $100 a month for a spot. Well, I charge $60 to $100 a night.
okay, so a mobile park and an RV park obviously are different. Just a clarification, a mobile park is something that's stationary, right? It's like a home, but it's basically a home just on wheels or whatever, right? An RV park is somewhere more recreational where you come in and park and stay there for a period amount of time.
Well, there's actually different things. So a mobile home park actually is built with mobile homes. And so the mobile home is brought in, it's put on a piece of land that either the park will own or the park will either own the mobile home, or a private person will own the mobile home and place it on a piece of land that is inside of a mobile home park. It is usually pretty permanent. It takes about $10,000 to move a mobile home park, so they don't move around often.
Yeah.
And then, you charge like $500 or whatever for your spot fee, $1,000, whatever that is. But people usually stay for long periods of time. It's usually recognized. There's usually a lease involved, signing of contracts, things like that. With an RV park, everything is done on wheels usually. So what they do is they bring it in, they stay with you for an amount of time, and then they take it away. And it's really easy to transition between the two. So I have people who come in and stay for anywhere from a night to a year. We don't deal with tenants. We don't deal with leases. We don't have tenancy rights. We don't deal with evictions. None of that stuff applies because we're under resort laws.
That's incredible. That's such a relief. You're still kind of in the real estate space, but you're kind of not because you don't deal with the monotony of being an investor in that space, right?
So yeah, we don't actually have to deal with some of the things that I've dealt with in some of my other classes, where I'm not signing a contract for you to stay with me. If I don't want you on my park anymore, I can ask you to leave.
Wow.
So it leaves it a little open. I mean, like, especially with with the places that we're looking at, there's different resort rules. So if I want you to leave one of my parks, the sheriff will come in after 2 hours and actually tow you out.
Wow. And are these laws or rules state specific, or is it just kind of boilerplate all around the country?
So all states have their own laws. They're different in lots of different places. So we tend to focus completely on states that fit within our category of what we want. So
Oh,
we like to be under resort zone laws. We like to be able to have the resorts rights to kick you out if you are unruly. We do have specific contracts that you sign when you come in stating that you can be asked to leave at any time, that this is not a tenancy, that this is not for you to stay here your specific amount of time, and after that you have to leave.
oh, that's great. You can leverage all these opportunities to get someone out if need be, right?
Correct.
Unlike an eviction in a state that it's a headache, it could take forever, right? And that's a nuisance in itself, right? You would understand as an investor. But
Yeah.
yeah, and then how do you how do you look for a park? Because what I did learn, what Pace mentioned something about seasonalities, right? That he invested. We were in community camp last month, and we went around and toured his park.
Mhm.
And I believe he said something that he learned was about seasonalities, right? Where he kind of makes all his money in this specific time period. Let's say in Montana, which is summers are super short, so he probably has like maybe a 3 month window to kind of earn as much as possible. How do you see that?
Well, seasonality is definitely a thing, but funny enough, I was at the July community camp and I spoke at Pace's community camp, or at Pace's RV park.
Yeah.
And after going around and visiting it and seeing how everything was, I actually went and visited the RV parks in the community. So all the other parks that were going on, to kind of find out what was going on in the community, which is something that I do at all of our locations. I find out, like, when we go in, what happens in this community, what is going on that we're missing, what is this particular campground not taking advantage of. And so I had a conversation with Bo afterwards about how every park in that area closes for the winter because they're all seasoned except for one.
Mm.
And that particular park stays booked through the winter. And the reason why he does is because there are a lot of workers that come in for the ski resorts, and there's a lot of manufacturing companies that come in and they bring in RVs. And so I told him, I was like, you realize that if you just opened up and made it and winterized it, actually just took like a couple of areas, maybe a area or two, and opened just that up where you knew where the water lines are, make sure everybody's winterized for the winter, you would up your NOI immediately. And so I think they're actually going to implement that this summer or this winter.
That's awesome because he wanted suggestions from when we were there. What would you improve? I don't know if he did with you guys. We walked around, and what would you think or consider that might be needed that would add to the profit margins, let's say? And then at the end, we did a quick walk around and we came back and people had their suggestions, but no one mentioned that.
Yeah. Well, and so he didn't do it at ours because Heather Blankenship actually did the tour of ours. And then I talked on the end. And so that was something that, like, even Heather and I were just discussing, like his storage units. Like, I believe from what I remember was that he made 6% of his profits from the storage units. Well, it'd probably be more profitable for him to get rid of them and actually put in more pads. So, like, these were all things that Heather and I discussed when we were there. And I had talked to Bo a little bit about them. So I think that they are going to winterize a couple of the sites and see if they can get that business and see how it does. Because, like I said, I went and visited some of the other parks in the community just to kind of see what was going on. And everybody closed except for one. And he said he was booked all year long.
That's incredible, right? If one is open, then there's possibility for two, right? There's a window there that an opportunity can created by what you just mentioned, which again, you have to be in the space to kind of really understand this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So and
a year ago, I would have never known any of this stuff. Now I'm like, oh, okay.
No, exactly. Once you delve into a space and you become comfortable, your mind just then the universe opens up all these opportunities, right? They just come to you, I believe, right? And then,
Mhm.
can you tell us about your first RV park experience and how did that go?
Yeah, so our first RV park was fun. It was not, you know what? Here's the thing is at the end of the day, I'm very, very thankful for our first RV park experience. It was one of the hardest parks I think I could ever do. And I'm very thankful that I got that first out of the bat, because I would have looked at every other park like I would have been terrified of everything else. So getting the hardest park out of the way first really just kind of dug my boots in and just taught me that I can do it. And so when we went into it, it was trashed.
No way.
It was full of drug dealers. There was prostitutes living in it. Like, it was a horrible place.
Oh my God.
It was scary. Like, I remember driving in and I looked at my husband and I was like, no.
What are we doing?
And he was like, really? You're going to let a couple of drug dealers run you out? And I was like, oh.
I love his style. I love him.
So, you know, we went into it and it completely had to be repositioned and rebranded. It had developed a horrible reputation for what it had done. Horrible reviews on Google. Like, it was awful. If it was anywhere else, I would not have bought it, but it was in the heart of Branson, Missouri, which is one of the largest tourist areas in the Midwest. They get over 10 million visitors a year. And so knowing what I could do with it and the money that it could make just really was like, okay, you know what? Like, we're going to dig into this. And so it was offered for $3 million. The seller did not have good books on it, which is what you'll find with most parks, is they don't have good books. It's usually mom and pop operations. He was utilizing 31 of the 68 pads, and there was 4 extra acres to expand on. And so $3 million going in was more than it was worth. And we actually had to rebuild his books and show him that it was not worth that. So we ended up buying it for $1.8 million. We bought it for $1.8 million, zero money out of our own pocket. We brought in, he did seller financing, and we brought in a private money partner. The private money partner took 10% and he introduced us to the bank. And so we were sponsored at the bank by him, which then they gave us 80%. So we were able to raise all of the money plus a CapEx to go in and start repositioning everything, which we are extremely thankful for. So we got in there. We seller financed a park model and brought that in to live in it for the next 3 months. And we fully lived on our park for 3 months.
Wow. Become immersed.
Yeah, we completely immersed ourselves in it because we didn't know anything about the asset class. And so it was you know what, if we're going to do this, we're all in. And so we moved in and we did everything. We built back-end systems. We built all of our funnels. We took over all the old web pages. We rebranded, renamed, brought in new management, trained, tore down buildings, built new pads. So we went from 68 pads to 80 pads. Rezoned, permitted, we did everything. So kicked out dealers.
Yeah, that's incredible. I'm sure once they saw did when you move in, those issues were still there, I'm assuming. And when you moved in, did everyone know that you were kind of the owners of the location now?
So one of the fun things that I never do is I never tell anybody I own anything.
Okay.
And so what happened is, well, with the drug dealers, one of the first things I did the night before we actually closed, I went to the maintenance guy, and I told the maintenance guy, you know what, great thing. We're building this. We're going to rebuild the reputation of the park. We're ready to bring in new people. Our first step to that is we're building a relationship with the police department. And so, you know, I said, I started making friends with them. They're going to start coming, doing community outreach with our people. They're going to start using our place for a speed trap, and they're bringing in the canine units to train. And so overnight, half of the people left.
How did you figure this stuff out? Because I thought of, before you even mentioned that, I thought about bringing the police in. It just came into my head, and then you mentioned it. Did it happen to you like that, or did you have someone to lean on, or how did you even imagine something like that?
You know what? I actually just I think I had heard it somewhere once
Okay.
before, like way back when, that somebody had positioned a police car outside of an apartment building where they knew drugs were being dealt, and it got rid of the problem quickly. Well, I'm in an RV park. So, I've got a drug problem. I'm not necessarily going to park a cop right outside of an RV that's selling drugs. The park is pretty large. And so I felt like, okay, well, if I bring in canines, you can't really hide from them.
Yeah, that's super creative. Like I would imagine like maybe like more lighting and security, right? I think those are the first issues you kind of want to tackle, right? To show a kind of initial presence, like something's going on here, right? They kind
Yeah.
of brighten up this pot, and but that was an awesome way to kind of alleviate a real concern, right?
Well, the thing is that I'm tiny. I mean, I'm like 5'4". I'm not going to confront a giant drug dealer who's like got all this business going on. So I need something scarier than me. And the canine units are scary.
For sure.
So, I was like, the easiest way to do this and to, relieve myself of all this heavy lifting is to literally find another way to get them out without actually having to confront them head on.
Yeah.
And so when I got rid of the drug dealers, the prostitutes just went with them.
Yeah, it was downhill from there for them.
And so it cleared them all out. They took all of their stuff. They never asked for a refund. So they never contacted us again. I don't think any of them ever came back. And then we did add cameras and lights to the area.
How long did the turnaround take?
So it took us a full 3 months to actually do most of the construction stuff and most of the stuff that we wanted to implement on back end systems, putting in a new reservation system, rebuilding the web pages, placing management, and doing all that. So it took us about 3 months, which was actually, we ended up going in at a great time. Branson, Missouri is closed between January and February, and we closed on our park December 28th.
Awesome.
So we joined Sub 2 in October, closed the park on December 28th, moved in January 1st, and from January 1st until April 1st, completely repositioned.
Awesome. And did you lean on anyone with experience that knew kind of the space? Again, just a lot of the stuff you're implementing, I would imagine maybe I would kind of lean on someone or leverage someone's information, let's say. Or did you just guys figure it out on your own?
One of the first things that we did was we actually talked to our broker and found out who the leading RV space man was in town. Like we joined, we went to COE, which happened to be like 2 weeks before we closed our park. We met a bunch of the local owners of some of the other parks and campgrounds. We met owners from other parks and campgrounds across the country. We talked to them about things that worked for them. And then we actually contracted, we brought on as a consultant one of the main contractors for RV parks in our community. And so the great thing about doing that is when you align yourself with somebody who already does it and he's done it so many times, you kind of give yourself a back door towards all the people that you need to know in town. So whenever we needed, like we found out right away that when we went to apply for our business license, that the business didn't have a license and they'd been operating without one, and they were not zoned to be an RV park anymore. Wow. And so they had repositioned, the city had rezoned it a couple of years before. And like, I guess a postcard was sent out and nobody replied to it. And so when we found that out, we had to get rezoned. So the great thing is that since we were already working with this specific GC who already dealt with this, he was neighbors to the mayor. And so he was like, well, let me just introduce you to Larry. And so we went to, meet Larry, and Larry was like, oh yeah, that's ridiculous. Let me walk it down to the city attorney myself.
Wow.
So yeah. So I think, making those relationships with people in the community that, are in charge of certain things is a really great way to start getting into spaces like that and to learn. Jim was invaluable to us. Like he helped us with zoning. He helped us with permitting. He helped us with the way things should cost. He brought us some of his professionals and was like, this is how this is going to work. Don't ever pay them up front to make sure you're doing these things. Like those were the things that he kind of clued us into. So we really learned a lot from him. And it was invaluable to us what he's taught us. And so now we've got this great friend who we can bounce ideas off of all the time, and he comes in to check on us. And then we also have all these relationships with all city officials We also have relationships with all the bankers and stuff like that. So we've joined Rotary Club. We've done all kinds of things.
Yeah, no, you're in a great place. The first one's out the way. That big headache is out the way. You got the first one up and running. How many RV parks do you guys have under management now, or just that one?
No, so actually, as of right now, we have 3.
Awesome.
And each one is different. So that one is very much a tourist area. We are not the attraction. We are just a place to park and stay for the night while you go to the attractions. We have one off of Route 66, which is very much a transient area. So people come in, like we'll start off the day with a few pads open. By that night, we're booked 100%. So usually people who are driving through and are like, hey, we're coming through. Can we book a spot? So they'll book on their way through with us. I actually just spent a week there running that one because our park manager, who was previously our seller, she stayed on as our park manager. She is on a vacation right now in the middle of the Atlantic. And then our third one is a destination. So you go there, it's in the middle of the woods, and you go there specifically to go there and spend a week there. And it's got water slides and movie areas. And we bring in a pumpkin patch for Halloween and do fireworks for the 4th of July. And like, it is a destination park.
All right. So I've noticed that all these kind of 3 are specific to different situations you want to create. That second one is just like a park and store your vehicle there and then leave to the next location. How do you promote something like that? Is that word of mouth or that the park already existed and people already know about it? How does that work? Or you have to advertise?
So all of our parks are pre-existing. We like to buy pre-existing parks. I personally don't want to venture into building a park. They're extremely expensive. And right now, it just seems like it's more cost effective to buy a pre-existing park and to reposition it than it is to build a park. I'm actually doing, I did a series of articles on it on my LinkedIn account that you can go out and read. So they're being put out in certain areas of building versus buying, basically. And so it's like the different things that you have to look at when you want to do one or two, because I do get asked that all the time. Would you build a park? And so all of our parks are pre-existing. The first one, like I said, we had to completely reposition because it had a horrible reputation. It went from being a 2-star park to a 5-star park. So now we're a 5-star park. Our second park, the first one we do advertise. We're advertising more and more as we go, like as things are improving. The second park, we do not advertise at all. It is 100% word of mouth. But it has been such a popular destination for 20 years on Route 66. And it is one of the only parks on specifically off of that route. Like, you come down Route 66 and you turn right into our park. So it is kind of positioned perfectly. It's right in between Joplin and Carthage, Missouri, which are Carthage is a huge war memorial town. And then Joplin has a bunch of other things like the Precious Moments Museum and a lot of other things that you can go and see. There's lakes around us and other places that you can visit in the area. We're also located right next door to one of the only drive-ins on Route 66 that's still functioning. Awesome. So you can actually stay in our park and then go over there. But, and then our Virginia park is advertised, and it is a favorite destination for everybody within like 5 hours of us. And we have a lot of repeat guests.
Is that the White Squirrel Park?
No, the White Squirrel Park is actually Branson.
Oh, that's Branson.
Yeah.
I remember that park, during our convention that you guys mentioned, or Pace mentioned that you guys should advertise the White Squirrel. So yeah. I always remember that one.
Yeah. So that one, actually, we do, with that park, what we just recently did is we actually seller financed some RVs. Because we would have to go through permitting to put new cabins on it. So we were thinking of putting cabins on it. So instead of having to go through permitting, we actually seller financed a couple of RVs and placed them on the park so that people could rent those for nights without actually having to bring things in. The second we went live, we started booking.
Oh man, you guys done figured this out. And and you said you started in December.
Technically, yeah.
Man, I was gonna say, how would a newbie who's interested in this space go about and start initiating how to walk in this lane, right? What would you recommend them to do, right? If they were interested, obviously you had a mindset and a husband to be like, let's go, right? So you kind of had that onus to push, but a lot of people are not like that, right? Don't have that go-getter attitude. But again, for those who do have it, right, what do you suggest they do, right, in the inception of being able to be in this space?
Well, one of the first things I would say is that, we're doing a workshop in Boston for 2 days. So you should come to our workshop in Boston to learn how to actually like get into it, because we're going to do everything from how we find them, what we look at, everything that we look at around, all my little tips and tricks on how I actually find out what's going on in the park and how we underwrite them, and the value adds that we see in them when we go into them.
What days are you doing this workshop?
October 29th and October 30th. And I'm actually partnering up with Ashley Perez from Florida. So between us, we own over 300 paths, so across the country, which, gives you kind of a lot of expertise and knowledge in there. But one of the other things is you can follow me on Instagram, where I give a lot of tips and tricks. I'm going to start doing free webinars to kind of get people's toes dipped into it. But one of the first things that I would probably say when we started was learn your asset class. And I think that's true with anything that you do. I'm very much like, we've got 7 different portfolios that we run right now. Long-term rentals. We own a couple of businesses in Chicago. Like, we do all kinds of different things. But I think that when you decide that you're going to do something, you have to fully focus and immerse yourself in it completely for 6 months to a year. And if you do that, you can't help but be successful in no matter what it is. And so when you need to start learning everything you can, start getting around people who are doing it, start picking up tips and tricks. Like, somebody had talked to me about, like, mentorships aren't worth it. And I was like, I think that is the worst way to look at things. My thing when you go into a mentorship is you should always like figure out what your goal is. So when you join any mentorship, figure out your goal, figure out who's accomplishing your goal in that mentorship, and then attach yourself to them like the plague. So
very true.
It is true, because you learn so much and bring value to them. Like, listen, if I need to set up appointments for you, if you need me to just like call people, if you need to just have somebody to vet you, please call me. Let me know, what can I help you with? And you can't help but learn as you're doing it. Heather Blankenship is a great person who knows all kinds of things about RV parks. I officially met her at community camp, and by that point, I think she probably thought I was a stalker.
She was like, enough of Michelle. I can't take it.
She literally looked at me. She was like, "Oh, it's you." And now we're friends. But I was like, I promise I'm not scary. I just want to learn.
Listen, when you put yourself in that space with intention, as you have, you accomplish what you want because you're so driven. And again, the person on the other side is going to be like, wow, this person really wants to learn. And at the end of the day, people that have this knowledge want to impart that knowledge to someone that's really wants to immerse themselves in it and not really waste their time, right? Because they're mindful of that as well. But if they see someone super committed, like going above the call of duty, they can be like, you know what? This is the one. This is they presented themselves in such a way that they're undeniable, let's say, right? So that's kind of the way you have to kind of present yourself in these meetups and how to network. You have to network with some type of intention, right? Can't just be there shaking hands for the purpose of shaking hands and taking people's blink. And then for what, right? For no follow-up and no intention. You kind of have to grow out of that as well, right? The more you attend these things, the more you also learn, right? To be like, no, let me focus, because I did that myself. I said, I need to focus more on the people I want to meet. Yeah. And when I went to community camp myself, I actually met the people I wanted to meet first and foremost, right? So I was a little stalky, but with intent, right? So if they were sitting on a bus and they were on the bus, I would sit next to them. All these little things that you want to be present in someone's mind, right? To get to where you want to go, right? There's no other way.
Well, I think ultimately you have to realize that we're all in the same boat. We all want the same things. We've all got goals. And even though those goals look different on the end, we all want to be successful and we want to learn. And so when you look at it that way, I think you look at people differently. It's not so much that, I may not be able to bring you any value in the RV space because that might not be what you're looking for. But I guarantee you, whatever it is that you're going to do, I'm going to hear about something later on that I'm going to be able to bring to you. So when I do find things like somebody brings me a deal that isn't for me in any space, like I get I get quads, I get single family homes, I get STRs, I get all kinds of things that are brought to me. They're like, oh, look at this. And I'm like, this isn't in my scope right now. It's not where I'm focused, but I do know somebody who is, and I'll pass that deal along with knowing, I don't want anything for it. Just do it. Here, this is for you. If you
Exactly.
find anything of value later, maybe it'll come back.
Exactly.
And that's the thing, is that it's a community, and that's what community is we all help each other out.
Yeah,
And
it's just
so,
yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, no, I mean, like Ashley and I, we're both doing RV parks. We're both doing them differently. And some people are like, well, aren't you guys competing? We're not competing. We're two women trying to make, college payments for our kids. Like, we just want to be able to buy shoes for, next summer. Like, that's what it is. We want to be able to provide for our families. And so, no, like, we have two completely different ways that we look at things. She does a little more of the seller outreach. I do a lot of broker outreach. Like, I work with a lot of brokers who bring me deals because they know that I'm going to close the deal. And so there's different perspectives to that. My parks are a little bit bigger. I think I'm not sure what size I think her parks are a little bit smaller, but mine are more of the larger parks where I'm like placing management and staffs and, running full arcades and all kinds of things that are going on in them.
Okay.
So it's just two totally different aspects on how you want to do things. And I think that is such a great thing to be able to bring those things together and like help other people. Because some people don't have the goal to retire completely like I have and just do this full time. Some people just want to make an extra couple $100,000 a year just to, to go on vacation.
Sure. And you said you mentioned broker outreach. Can you touch base on that just for the people who might not know exactly what that means and how you go about it?
So I actually, my team, we actually work a lot with brokers who are sometimes not the easiest people to work with in this space, especially when it's such a different asset class. Sometimes they don't really know. And so we kind of educate our brokers on what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we create our deals, and get them really excited about working with us so that when they find deals, they bring them to us. I probably have a dozen emails every week from brokers who are like, did you look at this park? I mean, yesterday we got a call from somebody who goes, hey, there's this park and I heard about you guys. And I'm having a hard time figuring out how this is going to work. I want to see if we can partner with you guys to get this sold. And so one of our things is that we don't go into a deal the way that most people do, where we're like, oh, sell us your park. We go into a deal with, let us be partners on this. Let us find a way that this actually makes it easier for both of us so we can transition you out into retirement and transition us into ownership. And like, let's figure out how we can partner together so that you can retire comfortably.
That's a great perspective to have, especially if you want to, at the end of the day, you want to close the deal. You want to be able to take them to the finish line, let's say. And that approach seems very smooth, right? It just seems like there might be receptive to that approach.
Yeah.
Right? And actually, and goal for them as well.
I was just actually approached yesterday by one of the industry leaders in RV in the RV space. He is one of the main contacts for all suppliers in the industry, and so he has all the contacts for everything that you could possibly want to do or put on an RV park. And he is like a one-stop shop for all of the owners. And so he goes, hey, I want to list you as one of my professionals. And I was like, what does that mean? And he goes, well, when these guys go to sell, he goes, I like how you do this. He goes, I like the fact that you're looking out for the seller more than you're looking out for, yourself. And he goes, and every deal that you've done, all of your sellers talk very highly of you.
Word spreads, reputations get established, a culture, right? You're creating your own culture, your own way, right? That's very important, and it's showing, right? You're seeing the boomerang effect. You're seeing the returns on that. Where do you see a business going the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, we actually just finished our SEC filing paperwork for our fund. So we are actually building our fund, and it goes live in 2 weeks. So we're taking accredited investors to work with us to actually start expanding this, because we want to have about 15 parks under control over the next 2 years.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a breeze. Wow, guys and gals, this woman has been doing this since December. It's not even been a calendar year, and you can see all the accomplishments just by putting our best foot forward and just going after it and being uncomfortable in the space, creating opportunity. You heard her how her first RV park was from hell. but those challenges took her to where she at now, right? Because as she said, if I didn't meet those challenges head on in the beginning, who knows if I would have been here? Because right, that developed a callus, right? A way to say I can do this, right? I can do this. So it's actually a blessing that you got that
Oh yeah.
to right. It was a blessing that you got that struggle initially. I think that's how it best works because then from there on you could tackle anything. Oh, I've seen this already. I know what this is. I can do it, right? It's just that I can do it. Basically, it's the word, right?
Yeah.
But
definitely, it's definitely been a blessing because going into that park, I look at every other thing and I'm like, oh, that's easy. That's a piece of cake.
yeah, you're the woman. Listen, guys, if you guys want to get to her workshop, is October 29th and 30th in Boston.
Yep.
I'll get some information. I'll post it. You can follow her. What's your IG?
At Michelle Bisson.
Awesome.
Really.
That's wonderful. Michelle, thank you again for coming on, and we'll like to catch up with you later on in your journey and see where you're at and give us some more inspiration about your story and where it's headed, right?
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. I'll see you soon.
All right. Bye.